So, there is a legend within this world and tale that I am going to be sharing with all of you today. It's about a woman who was said to be more powerful than words could possibly describe. She had come from another land, but at some point, and for some unknown reason, she had lost all of her incredible power. Some even say that it was stolen from her. The story goes on to say that all her power was concealed within a blade titled Deathbringer, which also may have been her very own sword. Now, this weapon would be lost to the lady forever, and to this very day, it's said that she may be still searching for her long-lost blade, and if she were to ever be reunited with it, there is no telling what would be unleashed upon the world. What's going on, everyone? This is Ace, and welcome back to The Reckoning. And today we are going to be exploring the tale of Lady Death, the Pirate Queen. Now, many of you may have not known that Lady Death was a pirate at one point in her life. But yes, the story had originally come from around 2007 and would be after the ending of Chaos Comics, and instead was being published through Avatar Press. I believe this was to be a sort of Elseworlds tale, and because of this, you will notice subtle differences in the way Lady Death behaves, but also, if you were to read this issue, you would notice a difference in how she speaks. And despite her somewhat familiar appearance, she speaks like an aged pirate whose life is the sea. I was aware of this story, but it wasn't until recently that I decided to dive into it because of a special announcement that I was made aware of this past February at Swornfest. What happened was we were given a 2024 preview book of pretty much all the upcoming titles that we have been receiving this year so far. This included information and preview art on Mike Morg, Lady Gunfighter, all of the stories within Heligeddon, and on the very last page, we got a 2025 preview of Lady Death, Pirate Queen. Now, this accelerated my interest and curiosity as I wanted to know the original tale of the Pirate Queen and of course share it with all of you today. I hope all of you are just as eager for the 2025 release, but for now, let's dive into the world of treasure, skulls, and blood. Oh, and of course, before we get too carried away, if you love what we do here and enjoy Lady Death, Purgatory, Lady Gunfighter, and of course, Lady Death, the Pirate Queen, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, click the bell as well, as it helps out the channel tremendously, and lets all of you keep up with all the Coffin Comics content we have in store for you. And so for now, let's begin. So for starters, our narrator for this story is a man named Solomon. He is a cowardly man, but for the most part harmless. He is loyal to Lady Death and is her trusted lookout, and by his own admission is more of a talker than a fighter. Now, it's through his perspective that we will hear of her tale on the open sea, and he is obviously a member of her crew. The Rowdy Bunch sail on an infamous ship named the Requiem, and it is the vessel that Lady Death and her crew use to raid enemy ships, steal their spoils, and kill on behalf of a man named Grimfang Legrande. Now, Lady Death and her crew's relationship with Grimfang is purely business, as they are privateers for him. They can continue to live their life for adventure and loot just as long as they did so to the assigned targets from Grimfang, and of course, they would be paid for their service. Now, Grimfang Legrande is a power-hungry vampire that has his palace located past the port of Esmeralda and south of the Insidious Sea. He has invited the skeleton pirate elite to his palace to offer a chance of uniting forces. Now, this is out of the ordinary, as the skeleton pirates and vampires seem to have a rivalry, or at least a feud that has existed for years. We know this because Bonethorn, the presumed leader of the skeletal pirates, mentions this, as he is in disbelief that Grimfang would truly want to unite. Grimfang, however, explains that times are changing, and instead of pirates and privateers and bloodshed all around, it is now a time of commerce, and both sides can make much more profit working together. He mentions that in order for the new era to begin, he will need the cooperation of the skeleton pirates. Bonethorn replies, "Ye find with booty at stake, we can be quite cooperative." Sorry, you guys, sorry. You all were thinking it too. But anyways, moving forward. So together they drink to celebrate their union. We are then taken back to Lady Death and her crew, raiding another skeleton ship. She makes her way to the captain and mentions that she is claiming this vessel in the name of Grimfang and the Vampire's Republic. She is quickly and frantically yelled at by the captain. Are you insane? Have you not heard, witch? Legrande signed a peace treaty with Bonethorn, and the gravestone crew. What you're doing is a crime. Now, upon hearing this, Lady Death is pretty vicious, as she still proceeds to cut the captain's head off, and then, if that wasn't enough, she crushes his skull on the floor with her foot. After this, she orders her crew to quickly take everything they can from the ship, and then be ready to sail south. Her crew is puzzled about why they need to hurry, and especially why they would head south, as a storm is coming from that way. However, Lady Death quickly shuts this down by threatening them if they dare question her orders, and of course, the crew complies. They make their way towards the storm, and Lady Death explains to the crew what she has discovered and why she asked them to sail with haste. She wants to use the storm as a bit of a cover to give them time, because as she explains to the crew, Grimfang has betrayed them and set them up. He ordered Lady Death and her crew to attack a ship, but then signed the treaty with Bonethorn, as we saw earlier, which makes Lady Death and her crew's actions unprotected, and they will now be the target for attack very soon. They are no longer hired privateers, they are now considered pirates and criminals, and although they may have conducted these types of acts before, they now would answer for them. If I had to guess the reasoning Grimfang chose to betray Lady Death and her crew is that it's because they are the wild card. He is done with the ways of privateering, and in his future plans, their kind have no place in it, and so they must be taken care of. Now, while Lady Death is explaining all this to her crew, one of their shipmates named Dirty Jake, who was their good luck charm of sorts, was wounded by the second mate of the skeleton pirate crew they had raided just earlier. It was a nasty wound from a bullet that messed up his leg. Now, several of the members of the crew argue amongst each other about who will amputate his leg, but are able to eventually remove it. Now, the next day, the storm has stopped and the waters have calmed, but Lady Death's crew is troubled to say the least. For you see, poor Dirty Jake did not make it through the night, and as the crew dumps his wrapped body overboard and sends the poor Dirty Jake on his way to Davy Jones' locker, some of the crew are already spreading word of them being cursed. For you see, pirates are a very superstitious bunch, and without their good luck charm, they assume the worst is yet to come. Now, Lady Death, knowing this, explains to the crew in, shall we say, a logic that would be undeniably clear. She says, yes, Dirty Jake was our good luck charm, and he is gone, but it was the crew member who amputated his leg incorrectly that couldn't save him. So, she takes her blade out and stabs the crew member responsible through the chest and kills him immediately. She says, you see, now as he takes his last breath, we are lucky once again. Any questions? Now, I gotta say, this Lady Death is pretty ruthless, and even for Lady Death standards. This time on the Seven Seas really has amped up her coldness, but I guess this is enough to get her point across, and so the crew sails on. From here we are taken to Grimfang, who is entering a bar filled with pirates and cutthroats located on the port of Esmeralda. It seems to be a popular spot for all that are a part of this life. He is there looking for a man named Mad Morgan and wants to ask for his help. He will pay Mad Morgan and his crew more money than they could possibly hope for if he can get rid of Lady Death and bring the Requiem to justice. Mad Morgan, upon hearing this, just gives a devilish grin. Now, when it comes to why Mad Morgan would be eager or delighted to take this job from Grimfang, it would be because of envy above anything else. For you see, Mad Morgan is another privateer slash pirate for hire, and he has actually had not a favorable history with Grimfang, as he has raided several of his ships on behalf of the Grey Golem Confederacy. But during his travels throughout the seas, he, along with other pirates from all around, knew of the legend of Lady Death that I had mentioned at the beginning of this video. Now, speaking of the lady, we go back to her crew, and some of them are disheartened still, as they are not used to fleeing from battle, and they are questioning why this time must be different. However, Lady Death is not fleeing, but mapping out where they will strike back, and they land on the Pirates' Republic. Another grandiose city of debauchery, drink, and freedom for all pirates. Now, it should also be noted, and you may have already recognized at this point, but there are plenty of supernatural beings existing in this world as well. And I mean, I guess it shouldn't be much of a surprise, as we have vampires and skeleton pirates, but this city of Pirates Republic has ghosts and sprites throughout, as well as demons that seem to walk about the streets. Normally, approaching this harbor would be a sign of joy and relaxation for pirates as they dock the port, but Grimfang had already sent his messenger, and word gets out that if pirates of the land give up their ways, they will be pardoned of past crimes, but if they refuse, then they will be killed. Now, Lady Death, upon hearing this, lashes out against the message, knowing that Grimfang is just playing them all, and that they will never be pardoned. However, whether it was for reason or fear, her crew is split in two, and her numbers decrease as multiple men decide to give up the way of the sea. Now, Lady Death and what remains of her crew set off and leave Pirate Republic. But not too long afterwards, another group of pirates make their way to the shore. The pirates of the land recognize those sails anywhere, as it is the ships of Mad Morgan. He is greeted and welcomed by the pirates of the town because Mad Morgan, like Lady Death, is an infamous name. But what happens next, no one could see coming, as the ruthless captain orders his crew, no one leaves alive, and the massacre begins. Grimfang has succeeded in his first attempt at ending an era, as Mad Morgan and his men would battle and kill practically all of the pirates within Pirates Republic. Before long, Mad Morgan would be on Lady Death's tail to complete the other part of his task and ending the legend. Now, Lady Death was headed to a place known as Black Harbor, and it's a place feared by pirates everywhere. Even the air is said to be poisoned. Lady Death's crew is understandably shaken, and even one mentions to her that he would follow her to the depths of hell, but please, not here. The lady silences them and persists they head on, and her crew believe she might have gone crazed. Now, as Lady Death's crew docked this island, Mad Morgan and his men would follow behind, but they would find out that this was all a part of a trap set by Lady Death and the monstrosities of this Black Harbor, which were these aqua-like humanoid creatures who would arise from the ocean and tear Mad Morgan's crew apart. Solomon recalls that he still has nightmares over the screams that Mad Morgan's men made that night. They were quite literally lambs for slaughter, and within this chaos of blood and destruction, he noticed that the lady was calm, as if this madness before their eyes was a comfort to her. And she makes her way toward Mad Morgan, and without hesitation, lops off his head and ending the story of the infamous pirate. Solomon, after witnessing this massacre, had come to fear Lady Death. Even to this day, he hasn't feared anything to the same degree as the lady. Now, after Mad Morgan and his men were annihilated, the leader of these ocean monstrosities brings to Lady Death a sword, quite possibly the lost sword of legend. And Solomon tells us when she grasped the blade with her hands, she changed, and there was a madness in the air. It was as if a force of nature returned to lay waste and punish us for all our sins. And I thought my heart would just burst with fear. Now, Lady Death and her crew make their return to Pirates Republic, but all that remains are the corpses and smoke from Mad Morgan's slaughter. What was once a beacon of relief for pirates has now been turned into a grave. Now, you may think Lady Death would be unmoved, but she also seemed to be saddened at the sight, as she has formed a sense of belonging with the people and lifestyle of being a pirate. She walks into the center of the carnage and strikes her sword into the ground, and perhaps after usage of her power, the dead ones rose. They still remained dead, but they walked and obeyed her every command, just the same. She had regained her ability to control the dead, and she loved every minute of it. She couldn't help but laugh, and there was a hint of madness within it. Finally, we are taken back to Grimfang and his mansion, as he is celebrating his supposed victory of being rid of Lady Death and pirate kind alike. But the celebration is quite literally cut short, as Lady Death and her crew have invaded the land. It's a massive battle of supernatural violence. Vampires, skeletons, the undead, and of course, just ruthless pirates with nothing to lose clash throughout the night. But by the end, Grimfang and Bonethorn are cut into pieces and fed to the rats. But this would happen years later, as they would have to endure all kinds of torture from the remaining pirates. And so, Lady Death, after achieving victory, knew that despite their victory, the world had changed. And maybe it was Mad Morgan's massacre, or Grimfang's orders, or her obtaining her power once again. But whatever the reason, it was an end of an era, and Lady Death sailed away solo in the middle of the night. No one has ever seen her again since. Years later, piracy would be abolished, and Solomon recalls that whenever the sea is restless and the storms come through or lightning cracks, he sometimes, just sometimes, can hear her laughter, and his heart is filled with that same fear he felt all those years ago. But then he is thankful for it, as it's a reminder that he is still alive. And that is the tale of Lady Death, the Pirate Queen. Now, this was a pretty interesting premise, and if anything, its world has me hyped for sure. as there is so much alluded to but never really explored at this time. For instance, the combination of supernatural characters blended with pirate lore could be a lot of fun for future stories. Skeleton pirates we've seen before, but having a feud with vampires and having pirate villages with demons and ghosts just really could unfold into something. Plus, I would love to get more filled out stories on all of these characters: Grimfang's rise to power, Lady Death on how she decides to become a pirate, or the origin of the monsters that live in Black Harbor. And speaking of that, that's what I really want to know, is Lady Death's connection with them, and why did they have Deathbringer, her blade? And or did she already know that they had it but was just needing to wait for the right time to reclaim her sword? Or were they the ones responsible for taking her sword to begin with? Just all these questions left unanswered, but again, if the story can get my mind racing with possibilities, then I'm glad I read it. And speaking of which, you best believe I am excited for the 2025 remastered edition, sort of speak, because it sounds like it's going to be upgraded tremendously. For starters, let's take a look at the artwork for the 2025 edition, as it will be illustrated by Alison Rodriguez. Now, Alison is an amazing artist who's worked for Coffin comics before, as she is the artist on Chaotica, which, if you guys don't know, is the book about Lady Death's daughter. And this image here that you are looking at is in fact done by Alison. So if that doesn't just nail my point in, I mean, look at this amazing piece. This is your interior artist, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks incredible. So Alison, thank you for your hard work. And now moving on to the synopsis that is given to us, I will just read it here. Shiver me timbers, matey, not an imaginary story, not a hoax. Long ago, Lady Death along with her skeleton crew were merciless pirates who raided merchant ships during the Black Age of piracy on the blood-red seas. But all that may be at an end as Lady Death robs the booty of Captain Mad Morgan Flintlock, vampire pirate. So weigh anchor and set sail for a tale of adventure and terror the likes of which you've never seen before. Brian Pulido greatly expands and updates his classic tale for new age of readers and collectors alike. So right away we can see some familiarity with the original story and some familiar characters. For instance, Mad Morgan seems to make his return, but looks like him and Lady Death will have direct conflict with each other due to her raiding his ships. And in this version, he himself is a vampire, so that's kind of very interesting there. Also, Lady Death has a skeleton crew instead of just normal pirates. Looking at this artwork, I can assume that the creatures from Black Harbor have returned as well, and maybe this here is Grimfang and Bonethorn over there, but we will have to just wait and see. Lastly, I could be wrong on this, but with Mad Morgan being a vampire, then this may be the official return of vampires within Lady Death comics, because don't get me wrong, we've seen all kinds of werewolves and zombies and demons, but vampires specifically, I don't recall being a part of the Coffin comics chapters. But then again, I'm not for sure if this Pirate Queen remastered comic will be canon within the Lady Death ongoing series, or perhaps just another version of her that exists within the Infinityverse, aka Lady Death's multiverse. But that is everything that I have for today, guys. Please let me know your thoughts, comments, and questions about Lady Death, the Pirate Queen. What did you think of this tale? Are you as hyped as I am for the 2025 release? And what is some other Chaos and Coffin content you want to see next? As always, I really appreciate your feedback and enjoyment of the channel. I will be back very soon, and so, until next time, take care.